Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. So next up, we got to get after the base. I've spent the last couple of days just detail sanding the cradle itself, and I think it's pretty much ready for finish, other than drilling the holes for the dowels. But next up, we need the stretcher that ties those two legs together. And I wanted a big beefy stretcher in there with the biggest tenon I could get in there and still manage the weight a little bit. So this is a full 2 inches thick, and it's pretty much cut to length at this point. It's milled, it's sat for a day or two. So we're gonna move over next, and I'm just gonna cut the tenons at the saw. I'm just gonna do it with a single blade and then clean them up to fit the mortises that we'll cut in the legs here in just a little bit. All right, so now with the tenons cut, I can lay out for the mortises and the legs, and I hope that turns out on camera. But the tenon is 1 inch wide, and I can't use my normal double guide in this because of these feet. So this time we're gonna go ahead and hog this material out with a 1 inch Forstner bit, and then I'll have to come back and clean up the lines with chisels. So let's go over to the drill press and start getting these hogged out. So I had to take my fence off to get these feet in here. I'm set up with a 1 inch Forstner bit, and I've set the depth stop to be just a smidgen over the 1 inch that we're looking for. All right, so now I'm just going to spend the next little while getting all this material out. All right, one down, one to go. All right, so with the mortises all done and fitting the tenons very nicely, it's time to get after the tops of the legs. And these get rounded over, obviously. And then there's a 1 inch recess that goes in there to hold the dowel. And it just sits in there like a cradle so that this whole thing swings. And the other side of this dowel obviously goes in the cradle itself. So I'm going to start these. I'm going to move over to the drill press since it's all set up still, and go ahead and recess these holes, and then I'm going to nip these corners off, and I'll clean those up at the drum sander. And we have to chisel out so that the cradle will drop in and out smoothly, but shouldn't take but a minute or two to get that material removed. So over to the drill press. I'm just going to drill these two holes, and I'll show you what we got when we're done. So as you can see, all I did was drill that hole. And the other one, I drilled the hole and rounded over the top so that you could see that as well. And I just rounded over this top at the disc sander. And the only thing left is to nip off these little corners down to that depth, so that this dowel slides in and out nicely. All right, so the last thing to do to the legs, now that we have all the joinery done, everything set up and ready to go, I'm just going to run over it with a small 1/8 inch roundover bit so I don't have any sharp edges, and do some sanding up to about 180, and hopefully here in just a little while we'll get this base glued up. On that note too, I'm also going to round over the edges on the stretcher because we don't want any sharp edges there either. All right, time to get this glued up. I'm going to be using epoxy, and I'm going to put this in fast forward because this is going to take a minute or two. Alrighty, I just had one clamp down there that, or one little gap down there that didn't want to close up, but we finally got that. So I'm gonna let this sit overnight. We come back tomorrow, get after this cradle, and make this thing function in here. All right, so up a little early this morning. I wanted to come out here and get these dowels located and installed so that they had all day to cure epoxy, and maybe I can take this to finish this evening. I used my original template to locate for the hole because I wanted to make sure that it would swing fully on there. With the wide bottom, it would be easy to hit. So I located and then I cut a little one just so that I could test the theory, and sits in like that, and sure enough, it will swing. It does not clear by much. I cannot be off, but I also don't see this, swinging that far either. But irregardless, it does clears in both directions. So I'm just going to transfer these marks to the actual cradle now, and get these drilled. And I'm going to use epoxy to put these in, because I don't want these coming out. So to make the plugs, all I did was took a piece of wingy and I cut it at 1/4 by 1/4, and then I finished this in the drum sander just to make sure they fit each one just right. And I make these one at a time, and I just start with it chucked up in the drill, and I'm just going to pillow it on this 220 paper. I have that soft fast cap foam underneath there that just does a wonderful job. It's nice and pillowed. And next I'm going to move over to the bandsaw and nip these off. Now I've put some blue tape on the bandsaw to make more of a zero clearance fence so these don't slip down the throat, and I'll show you that next. All right, so here you see all the blue tape around the blade, and all I'm going to do is just cut this off where I need it. The install is fairly simple. Just get a little bit of glue on it. That was a little bit too much. And then I install the plug. And I'm just looking to get it started and not stick to my fingers. And then I cut this little tapper block that fits right in there. Until they look just the way I want them to look. I use a little piece of sandpaper, towel, whatever I have to get that glue squeeze out off of there. Just like that. Whole bunch of these to go. So no clue if this is going to work out or not, but I have a piece of carbon paper under here. And I'm going to trace all these letters. And then I'm going to wood burn this into the bottom. And of course, if this doesn't come out, it's not the end of the earth. I can simply sand it off and do something different. All right, let's see if that carbon paper worked. Boom. Now we just got to burn it in. All right, let's see how steady my hand is with the burner. Make sure we're good and hot. Normally I wouldn't finish the underside of this piece, but on this one I'll go ahead and protect that with just a little bit of spray lacquer. See if I can turn that right for you. Just a little bit of Krylon spray lacquer. All right, so finish is going to be Rubio Monocoat on this one. I've really grown to like this finish. And I'm just going to be applying with a white Scotch-Brite pad. Since this is going to be kind of a long process, I'll just show you on the other side. All right, guys. Well, there it is, all wrapped up. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. The wood was just beautiful, and I had this earmarked and hauled it all the way from Tennessee. So I'm glad I finally got to use it on this project. I'll post some pictures up here, some more finish type shots that we took in the other room. And that's going to wrap it up. So until next time, guys, take care.